Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're literally traveling back in time, way back to somewhere between 1000 BC and 600 BC. I want you to just picture the lush, incredibly fertile plains of North India slowly transforming right before our eyes. We're going to map out the epic evolutionary journey of ancient Indian states. We'll watch how these really small, humble settlements grew, fiercely competed with one another, and eventually gave birth to one of the most powerful empires the ancient world had ever seen. Settle in, because the absolute mechanics of how human societies build power from scratch is truly captivating.
Okay, let's dive right into our lesson plan for today. We're going to start with the early era of Janapadas, watch them level up into mahajanpadas, introduce you to the four major ancient powers, see exactly how Magadha transformed into an empire, and wrap it all up with the lasting historical impact.
All right, Section 1. The Era of Janapadas, the humble beginnings between 1000 BC and 600 BC.
So, if we look at the geography of North India during this era, specifically that incredibly fertile Ganga River Valley, we start to see the very first sparks of organized political life. We call these the Janapadas. Basically, think of a Janapada as a small, localized state. These were the fundamental building blocks of ancient Indian society. People were finally settling down, clearing out forests, and establishing these defined territorial units right along the river. They were small, sure, but they were the absolute beginning of something much, much bigger.
Now, you might be wondering, how are these Janapadas actually run? Well, it's pretty fascinating, because they definitely weren't all the same. On one hand, you had your standard monarchies, where power rested entirely with a king. But, and this is a huge deal for the ancient world, we also had republics. In these republics, the state wasn't ruled by some solo king, but actually by a council. This council was called the Gana, and its members would gather together at a specific meeting hall, known as the Sanghagar, to debate and make all the big decisions.
Actually, wait, let's take a quick step back. How do we even know all of these intricate details about councils and meeting halls from over 2.5 millennia ago? It's not like they left us a podcast, right? Well, we basically rely on three main sources of ancient knowledge. We have the incredibly rich texts of Buddhist literature and Jain literature, which give us this amazing window into the political and daily life of the time. Plus, we actually have surviving accounts from ancient Greek historians who recorded their own observations of the Indian subcontinent. Together, they paint this amazingly vivid picture for us.
Okay, moving on to Section 2. The Rise of the Mahajanapadas. It's time to level up.
Let's look at the actual formula of how this all builds up. Ancient state building followed a super clear path. Step 1, you have those small Janapadas we just talked about. Step 2, they experience massive growth. Through major advancements in agriculture, mostly thanks to cool new iron tools, booming trade networks, and serious military buildup, they accumulated a ton of wealth and strength. Then, Step 3, the absolute strongest of these states swallowed up their neighbors, expanding their borders to evolve into giant, powerful states called Mahajanpadas. And by the way, the prefix Maha literally means great.
So, by the time we hit the 6th century BC, the dust had kind of settled on this initial expansion phase. And guess what? The map of North India was dominated by exactly 16 of these powerful Mahajanapadas. 16 massive, supercharged states, all fiercely vying for resources, territory, and of course, ultimate supremacy.
Which brings us to Section 3, the four major ancient powers. Think of them as the final four in a massive tournament. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly who those standout superpowers were. Out of the original 16, these four became the undisputed heavyweights. First up is Kosala, located up near the modern Nepal border in UP, ruled by King Prasenjit. Next, we have Vatsa, centered around modern Allahabad under King Udayan. Then there's Avanti, over in Madhya Pradesh under King Prajat. And finally Magadha, located in modern-day Bihar, under the incredibly formidable kings Bimbisara and Ajatashatru. Let's try to bring some of these ancient regions to life a bit. Take Kosala, for example. Kosala wasn't just this political powerhouse, it was deeply, deeply significant culturally. It's super notable as the place where the Buddha actually lived and taught for a really long time. But here's the thing. Despite its massive cultural prestige and its early military strength, it just couldn't resist the tide of history. Eventually, Kosala was conquered and completely absorbed by the relentless growing power of Magadha.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the wild domino effect that kicks off. Vatsa and Avanti, they were incredibly wealthy major trade centers. And you know how it goes. Wealth usually buys military might. So Avanti uses its power to conquer Vatsa, absorbing all of its riches. But the tournament doesn't end there. Eventually, even the mighty, super-expanded Avanti is completely defeated and absorbed by that exact same unstoppable force we just mentioned, Magadha. That takes us straight into Section 4. Magadha becomes an empire, the ultimate champion.
So how in the world did Magadha actually pull this off? It was essentially a three-phase masterclass in empire building. In Phase 1, King Ajatashatru goes on the offensive, aggressively conquering neighboring republics and shifting the capital to the highly strategic city of Pataliputra. In Phase 2, we see successive dynasties, like the Shishunaga and Nanda kings, ending with the infamous Dhanananda, vastly expanding the empire's borders and its wealth. And then, Phase 3 brings the grand climax. Chandragupta Maurya overthrows the Nanda rule entirely, takes control of this absolutely massive state apparatus, and founds the legendary Maurya Empire. Magadha wasn't just a state anymore, guys. It was the beating heart of a colossal empire.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the historical impact. Why does any of this actually matter to us today?
So the crucial point we really need to take away here is this beautifully complete, traceable evolution. It's like watching a giant puzzle come together. We literally get to watch human beings organize into tiny local states called Janapadas, see them consolidate through trade and conflict into those powerful regional mahajanpadas, and ultimately forge these massive continent-spanning empires. This isn't just a niche piece of Indian history. This is the literal blueprint for how human civilizations scale up all across the globe.
Ancient texts and modern historians are in total agreement here. Magadha became the most powerful and proved crucial in subsequent Indian history. And honestly, that's almost an understatement. The strict administrative structures, the brilliant military tactics, and the complex economic systems they developed during Magadha's rise, they laid the permanent, unshakable groundwork for the Indian subcontinent for thousands of years to come.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty massive question to chew on. How exactly do the early, everyday decisions of small, local villages, like deciding whether to be a monarchy or a republic, figuring out who to trade with, or how to farm, how did those tiny choices eventually ripple through time to forge the most massive empires in history? Keep that in the back of your mind the next time you're looking at a political map of the modern world. There's so much more to learn about this, so definitely dive onto the internet to explore this topic further. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring.